It was supposed to be the greatest comeback in music history. A return so massive, so electrifying, that fans around the world scrambled for tickets within minutes. 50 sold-out shows, one of the world's most iconic arenas, and the biggest name in entertainment. Michael Jackson called it the final curtain call. But instead of a comeback, it became a global tragedy. 18 days before opening night, the king of pop was gone. No shows, no stage, no farewell. So what really happened behind the scenes? Why did the most anticipated tour of all time never happen? Let's uncover the truth behind This Is It. The comeback announcement. On March 5th, 2009, the King of Pop walks out in a black jacket, sunglasses on, waving to the crowd. This wasn't just a press event. This was history in the making. Michael steps to the mic and calmly says,
"These will be my final show performances in London. I'll be performing the songs my fans want to hear. This will be it. This is it. And when I say this is it, it really means this is it."
The crowd erupts. For millions around the world, this was the comeback they had prayed for. After years of silence, lawsuits, scandals, and public isolation, Michael Jackson was finally returning to the stage. Initially, only 10 shows were announced, but the demand? Unreal. Over 1 million tickets sold out in just a few hours. They added more dates, 20, 30, then 50 shows. Neverland may have been gone, but the magic clearly wasn't. Fans were flying in from Japan, Brazil, the US, Australia, every corner of the globe. Some even sold their cars, maxed out credit cards, or emptied their savings just to see him one last time. It wasn't just a concert, it was redemption, a second chance. Michael was about to reclaim his crown and remind the world why he was the greatest performer of all time. But while the public was celebrating, behind the curtain, not everything was as perfect as it seemed. The pressure mounts. Michael hadn't done a full tour in over 12 years. He was 50 years old, and this wasn't just any tour. This was 50 shows at the O2 Arena, night after night. For most artists, that would be impossible. But for Michael Jackson, the expectations were sky high. Fans weren't just hoping for a comeback, they were expecting perfection. Behind the scenes, a powerful machine was in motion. AEG Live had poured millions into the production. They promised a show like the world had never seen before, and they were counting on Michael to deliver. But he hadn't performed at this level in years, and the pressure to be Michael Jackson again was becoming unbearable. People who worked closely with him began to notice signs. He seemed nervous, distracted, physically weaker than they remembered. Rehearsals were intense, and although he still had moments of brilliance, his energy wasn't consistent. One day, he'd light up the stage. The next, he'd be missing, too exhausted to move. Some say he was barely eating. Others say he was relying on medications just to rest at night. And while fans were celebrating the return of the king, those closest to him were starting to feel that something wasn't right. Michael was doing everything he could to get through it, but behind closed doors, the cracks were already starting to show. Concerns from the crew. As rehearsals began, excitement was sky high, but so were the red flags. Kenny Ortega, the tour's director and one of Michael's longtime collaborators, started noticing changes. He wasn't just worried about the show, he was worried about Michael. There were days when MJ was energetic, sharp, even playful. But then there were days when he seemed lost, confused, physically weak. He'd miss rehearsals or show up hours late looking exhausted and fragile. Sometimes he barely spoke. Other times he pushed himself far too hard, trying to prove he could still own the stage. Behind the scenes, AEG executives were emailing each other in panic. One message revealed that Michael was, quote, an emotionally paralyzed mess. Another worried he might not even make it to opening night. The dancers and crew were told to keep pushing forward. The show had to happen. Millions had already been spent. The world was watching, but some on the team started questioning whether Michael was physically or mentally ready. Still, no one stepped in to stop it. Not the producers, not the executives, not the people who could have made a difference. Because to them, it wasn't just a show, it was business. And for Michael Jackson, the pressure was quietly becoming unbearable. The shocking collapse, June 25, 2009. Just 18 days before opening night, the world stopped. Michael Jackson was found unresponsive in his Los Angeles home. He wasn't breathing. His heart had stopped. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late. News broke like a thunderstorm across every screen and station. At first, people didn't believe it. Some thought it was a hoax. But within hours, it was confirmed. The king of pop was gone. Outside the hospital, crowds gathered in silence and shock. All around the world, fans cried, held vigils, and lit candles. Billions had grown up with his music. Now, the man behind the moonwalk had taken his final bow. The This Is It tour, Michael's grand return, the most anticipated concert series in music history, was canceled before it ever began. There would be no lights, no stage, no final goodbye, only heartbreak and questions. And what came next would turn everything upside down. The investigation and controversy. After Michael's sudden passing, the world demanded answers, and what surfaced only deepened the tragedy. At the center of it all was Dr. Conrad Murray, Michael's personal physician. He had been hired and paid by AEG Live, the very company producing the tour, and he was the one who had been treating Michael in the days leading up to his death. But what kind of treatment was he giving? It was soon revealed that Michael had been receiving powerful sedatives, prescription-level medication, just to fall asleep. Dr. Murray had reportedly given him a drug so strong, it's usually only used in hospitals during surgery. The goal? To help Michael rest enough to get through rehearsals. In 2011, Murray was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The court said he acted with gross negligence. He had failed to monitor Jackson properly and left him alone at a critical moment. But the blame didn't end with one man. People began pointing fingers at AEG. Had the company pushed Michael too far? Were they more focused on money than his health? Leaked emails showed that even insiders had doubts about whether he was ready, but the show was pushed forward anyway. To many, it felt like Michael Jackson had been trapped in a system, one that cared more about profit than people. And while fans were grieving, the industry was already moving toward the next move. The film that gave fans closure. Just 4 months after Michael's passing, something unexpected hit theaters. This Is It, a documentary-style film made from rehearsal footage, pieced together from his final days on stage. It showed Michael smiling, dancing, laughing. It captured the creative process, the choreography, the magic. For fans, it was a glimpse into what could have been. It was beautiful and heartbreaking. The film became a global event. Released in over 100 countries, it grossed more than $260 million, making it the highest-grossing concert documentary of all time. But not everyone was cheering. Some believed the footage was selectively edited to hide how frail Michael really was. Others said the film was rushed out to cash in on the moment, turning grief into profit. There were even reports that Michael didn't want the footage shown publicly at all. To some, This Is It felt like a love letter. To others, it felt like a cover-up. Still, it gave the world one last chance to see Michael doing what he loved, even if it wasn't the way he wanted to be remembered. The tour that could have been. This Is It wasn't meant to be just a concert series. It was designed to be a revolution in live performance. Michael wasn't simply planning a comeback, he was crafting a masterpiece. Every element of the show was set to push boundaries. He was working with some of the best creative minds in the world. Kenny Ortega, Michael Cotton, Travis Payne, people who had helped him shape his biggest stage moments. And together, they were building something that felt more like a cinematic universe than a tour. The stage was going to transform in real time. One moment, a bulldozer would roll in for Earth Song. The next, fans would be pulled into a full 3D thriller sequence, with dancers rising from the grave. There were even plans for a massive digital wall to immerse the audience in new worlds with every track. Michael was deeply involved in every detail, more than most fans realized. He wasn't just rehearsing his moves, he was directing camera angles, changing lighting cues, adjusting audio balance, and designing costumes. He wanted each song to feel like its own universe. Every beat, every transition, every second. Even the outfits were groundbreaking. Some had fiber optics woven into the fabric. Others were designed to light up in sync with the music. There were discussions about illusion tricks, trapdoors, and onstage teleportation. And this wasn't just about wowing the audience. For Michael, this was legacy work. He wanted to remind the world, after all the controversy, the silence, and the shadows, that he was still the greatest performer to ever walk the earth. This was going to be his victory lap, his gift to the fans, and maybe his way of saying goodbye, on his own terms. But the world never got to see it. The stage was built, the dancers were ready, the set list was finalized, and just weeks before the curtain was set to rise, it all vanished. A legacy sealed in silence. This Is It was meant to be the final chapter in Michael Jackson's extraordinary journey. A worldwide celebration, a redemption arc. The tour that would silence the critics and crown the king one last time. But instead of thunderous applause, there was silence. Instead of a final bow, there was heartbreak. And instead of memories made on stage, there were only questions left behind. Why did it have to end this way? Was Michael truly ready for a comeback? Or was he pushed to the edge by the weight of expectation? What we're left with is a tour that lives only in fragments, rehearsal clips, blueprints, dreams, a glimpse of what could have been but never was. Yet somehow that makes it even more haunting, because This Is It became more than just a tour. It became a symbol of talent, of pressure, of loss, and of a legacy too big to fit in any stadium. Michael Jackson never made it back to the stage, but his music, his magic, and his message never left. So now we ask you, was This Is It the beginning of a new era? Or the final cry for help from a man the world couldn't save? Let us know in the comments.